Hey guys, it's Chris and I'm back with the third part of my little series on the House of the Undying and the visions that Dany experienced there in A Clash of Kings in the actual books as compared to the show. So in the last video we talked about the second set of visions, which I refer to as the Undying visions because it's when she actually reached the Undying. So in this video we're talking about the next set of visions, which I refer to as the titles visions, where Dany receives 3 titles from the Undying. Again, this number 3, I think again referring to the 3 heads of the dragon and remembering who she is, Quaithe. And these 3 titles are Daughter of Death, Slayer of Lies, and Bride of Fire. So the first set of visions is Daughter of Death, and basically they give her 3 visions, and at the end of the third one they give her the title Daughter of Death. I think that the Daughter of Death visions probably point to things she's been through and a lot of shit she's been through to get to the point to where she is now, or when she was when she actually had the visions. And the first vision reads like this: Viserys screamed as the molten gold ran down his cheeks and into his mouth. And that's pretty straightforward, nothing really to discuss there. That's a straight up memory of Viserys dying at the hands of Drogo when he took the gold and poured it over his head and gave him a crown of gold. And she found out he was not really the dragon. That's what kind of pushed her forward into realizing she needed to step into a fucking fire and burn a witch later on to actually hatch the dragon eggs. The second one in the Daughter of Death series reads: A tall lord with copper gold skin and silvery hair stood beneath the banner of a fiery stallion, a burning city behind him. So this is largely believed, and I tend to agree, that this is actually a vision of the future that could have been if her son Rhaego had survived. The copper skinned guy, but yet Valyrian style silverish hair, and a city burning behind him, and a fiery stallion, that points to Dothraki. So I believe that that's pretty much correct and dead on, that this is probably what the future could have looked like if Rhaego would have lived. And the third vision in the Daughter of Death series reads: Rubies flew like drops of blood from the chest of a dying prince, and he sank to his knees in the water and with his last breath murmured a woman's name: Mother of Dragons, Daughter of Death. So this is obviously the death of Rhaegar. She's seeing the death of Rhaegar as he died on the Trident fighting against Robert when he smashed him with his warhammer, and it was always described that it had rubies adorning his armor, and then when he got hit with the warhammer of Robert's that they went scattering everywhere, and the people around them in the fight actually tried to start clamoring to try to get their hands on the ruby. So I think this is pretty much her seeing Rhaegar's death. So this is technically not a memory. She wasn't alive when Rhaegar died, so she's seeing the past. So again, this was the first set where she was called the Daughter of Death, and really it was just all about all the shit that's happened for her to get to this point. It took Rhaegar dying, it took Robert's rebellion, it took all these things and all this death around her brother dying and that type of thing for her to become who she is at this time. The second title they give her in the second group of visions is the Slayer of Lies. Now I believe these 3 things, these 3 visions, actually provide her a sense of what's coming and what to look out for, that she will eventually prove to be wrong, that she will actually prove these things to be falsehoods. So I think that's why they give her this title, Slayer of Lies, in this set. And the first one in this set reads: Glowing like sunset, a sword was raised in the hand of a blue-eyed king who cast no shadow. Now most people believe this is Stannis Baratheon. He was described as blue-eyed, and of course he had the red sword, which he called Lightbringer because Melisandre falsely believes that he's Azor Ahai reborn. So again, this is her seeing a falsehood, I think, that she's going to eventually prove wrong. And now, of course, 3 books later and 5 seasons later on the show, we know that Stannis is now dead, that it was not Azor Ahai, and that Melisandre had simply misinterpreted her vision. So I believe this kind of fits perfectly, and I believe this is Stannis. The second one in this group under Slayer of Lies reads: A cloth dragon swayed on poles amid a cheering crowd. Now this could be one of 2 things, I believe. I believe it could be literally a cloth dragon, you know, her sigil, or somewhere in the future where she is accepted and a crowd is cheering, whether that be Westeros or over in Meereen before she gets there, or something like that. So this could be simply mean that it's just a glimpse of something to come where she's accepted and her banner's waving again over the land instead of being hidden away and running from the usurper's knives, as was always stated when she and Viserys was young. But personally, I think it relates to the Mummer's Dragon. And what I think the Mummer's Dragon is a character that's in the books, but they cut out of the show completely, and that is young Griff, who claims to be the real Aegon Targaryen. Aegon and his sister was killed, that was Rhaegar's children, when Robert claimed the throne during Robert's rebellion. They were killed as children, and therefore that changed the whole prophecy that Rhaegar thought was coming to pass, being his 2 children at the time, and then of course a third, which we all think is Jon Snow. I personally think that the young Griff is actually a Blackfyre imposter. Now the Blackfyres were Targaryen bastards, they kind of formed their own house, and they actually had a rebellion against the Targaryens at one point. But I think that Aegon is the Mummer's dragon. Now, a Mummer is always described as an actor or a pretender. Varys in the books is actually supporting Aegon and trying to get him back on the throne because he believes he is the real Aegon. Of course, in the show, Varys is, told Tyrion that he's supporting Daenerys because Aegon is not in the show. Varys would be representing the Mummer, the actor, or the pretender, and Aegon would be representing the dragon, the Mummer's dragon, or the false dragon. So I think that's what this is referring to, a cloth dragon being a false dragon, because that's what Mummers use in shows. So essentially I think this just shows that, in my opinion, that it shows that Dany will prove somehow or another in the books that young Griff is in fact not Aegon, the real Aegon Targaryen, and he's just a Blackfyre pretender. And the third vision in the Slayer of Lies category is, from a stone tower a great stone beast took wing, breathing shadow fire, mother of dragons, slayer of lies. So again, this is the last one in this set, so they give her the title Mother of Dragons, Slayer of Lies. This one's a little bit vague. I don't know exactly right offhand what this could be, even now that the books are up to book 5 and season 5 in the show. It could hint back to Melisandre and Stannis, because Melisandre believes that Azor Ahai Reborn will wake dragons from stone as part of the prophecy. But at the same time, if the first vision in this set refers to the blue-eyed king with the red sword, which I think is Stannis, I don't necessarily think that the third one in this set would also be referring to Stannis. It does seem to hint at dragons. A beast would hint at dragons. Of course, a beast could hint to anything. It could hint to a direwolf. But it mentions shadow fire, breathing shadow fire, as a dragon would breathe dragon fire, or perhaps an ice dragon, ice fire. There's nothing that I can think of about a literal dragon from stone. I don't think that's going to happen. I mean, there are some little things out there about ice dragons from the wall and stuff like that. I won't get into that here. And I think that's kind of cool to think about. I don't think this could be referring to her own dragons like Drogon taken off from a stone building or a stone tower, because this is in the section of Slayer of Lies. So these are things that she's going to prove to be falsehoods, I believe. So this one's still up in the air. If you have any ideas, feel free to comment, let me know. And the third title they give her in this set of titles, as far as these visions go, is Bride of Fire. I believe Bride of Fire simply relates to her actual literal connection to fire, having dragons, the Targaryen name and blood as far as their relationship to dragons and fire. And the bride could represent, her potential lovers or husbands in the future, or the past for that matter. And the first one in this section reads, her silver was trotting through the grass to a darkling stream beneath a sea of stars. Now I think this one's pretty straightforward. It's almost a memory of Dany going back to the place where, at least in the books, that her and Drogo consummated their marriage. They didn't do it like they did it on the show, where she was really just shown in a tent somewhere, essentially a rape. In the books, she resisted for a little bit. She kind of turned around and actually enticed Drogo, so to speak. So it's completely differently done in the show versus the books. And I think this is just referring to where they consummated their marriage. So this would be a past event. And the second one in the Bride of Fire series reads, a corpse stood at the prow of a ship, eyes bright on his dead face, gray lips smiling sadly. Now, I tend to agree with most other people with this one. This could mean a few things. It could relate to, as I was mentioning, the young Griff character, his guardian, John Connington. He has grayscale in the books. He was actually cut out of the show completely, along with young Griff. But it could refer to something with him having grayscale, since it does mention gray. But I think since it's got a ship involved in the word gray and smiling, that it probably involves the Greyjoy. So I think you have gray lips, smiling refers to joy. So you have Greyjoy in there. Of course, they are known for being essentially pirates and warring from ships versus land and horse. So in the books, Euron is sending his brother over to take control of Dany's dragons. I think personally it's prophetic and kind of warning her of, hey, look out, you got a Greyjoy coming for you from over here trying to take your shit again. And the third and last vision in this Bride of Fire group, which I think is the most important, reads, a blue flower grew from a chink in a wall of ice and filled the air with sweetness. Mother of Dragons, Bride of Fire. So again, the third one in this set of titles, they give her the title Mother of Dragons, Bride of Fire. Obviously, talking about a blue rose and a wall of ice refers to Lyanna Stark and Jon Snow. Lyanna was known for loving winter roses that grew around Winterfell. Of course, we all know that Rhaegar crowned Lyanna the Queen of Love and Beauty at the tourney of Harrenhal with a crown of blue roses. So obviously this is referring to her or her son, Jon Snow, at the literal wall. So I think that's pretty self-explanatory if you follow R plus L equals J. So that's it in the set that I call the title visions in the House of the Undying. And again, she got 3 titles from the Undying: Daughter of Death, Slayer of Lies, and Bride of Fire. And again, the Daughter of Death I think refers to all this shit and the death and stuff she had to deal with as far as her brother and Rhaegar and all the things that had to happen for her to get to where she is or where she was when it actually happened. And I think the Slayer of Lies title refers to the things that she's going to ultimately find out are false or either prove herself are false. And I think the Bride of Fire refers to probably a mix of potential lovers, future lovers, husbands, what have you, and her direct connection to fire as far as being a Targaryen. Anyway, that's it for that set. Let me know what you think in the comments below, and we'll see you in part 4.